Hello and welcome to week 7 in research methods, where we'll be talking about sampling. Now, sampling is a core aspect of what we do when we're doing research, is reaching out and finding individuals willing to participate in whatever method we've come up with. Either we're going to be having them do a survey and answer questions, or they participate in an experiment, share information about themselves, take tests, take instruments, whatever. We're looking for people. The way in which we do that, our methods, the tiny little part of big methods of sampling, is extremely important because it has to do with what do we want to be able to say at the end of that study. Now, at the end of the study, any study, we want to say things about, first, what did we discover with this group of people? Then we want to maybe extrapolate a little bit and say, what does that say about larger groups of people? Like, if I'm studying students at KV in the psych program, can I sample in such a way that I can make generalizations to people in other psychology programs, or maybe just college students, or maybe I'm looking at something that could be generalized to people all over the world. In order to make those leaps, you have to make an effort to consider to what degree the group that you actually measured is representative of the larger group that you want to say something about. And sampling and our methods for that and the errors that they introduced both expand our ability to be able to say things about larger populations and limit our ability, because there are unique features of our sample that will not be representative. That's an expectation. It's always a sense of probability that our sample represents the population that we're trying to say something about. So these methods are important. They're not going to be as important for your research project because we are going to be doing largely convenient sampling. Whoever shows up, we'll take whoever. If I'm actually guiding some of you in that, when you're looking at specific populations, it's harder to make sure everybody in your sample meets those criteria. It's harder to build. It takes money sometimes to be able to recruit people that you really want to hear from. Can't work with kids because you have to get special permission to do that. You can't work with people who are in prison because you have to get special permission for that. Now, and I mean if you were a researcher and you wanted to work with those populations, you can, but you have to go through the process of getting permission and making sure that your methods are very attuned to working with that population and not exploiting them. So you have to understand how we're going to, all the different methods, and the methods are basically divided into two. One is what we call probability sampling, where we are setting criteria for the individuals to be part of the study. And the other one is convenient sampling. That's whoever shows up. I'm not going to make any distinction between any qualities that they have or anything like that. So one of the questions in the quiz for this week is to make a distinction between those. Distinction between all of those probability sampling methods and all of the convenience sampling methods that are described in the course book. The second question is, when we do convenience sampling, what are some of the errors? If I'm trying to say something about men in America, and I hold a study at KV asking men to answer these questions, what are some of the errors that are going to be, the biases that are going to be put in there, because my sample is going to come from men who are currently attending KVCC. Now, what you want to think about in a question like that is, well, how do men at KVCC compare to men in general? Are there some substantive differences between the sample and the whole population? And that's all those areas that you would see error in your sampling. You can still do that, but you have to be able to explain the error, and you have to not acknowledge that it limits what you can say. So that's the quiz. The discussion has you be part of a sample. So basically, I'm having you go into an existing real world study. These are the real studies. They're really going on, and become a subject in there. And I want you to experience the idea of being a subject in somebody else's study. So in the course book, what I have right on page 137 is there's a link to current research on the internet. So you visit that link. Here we go. Some downloads. It's loading up here. And look at all these research. Go through here, pick one. Oh, it's not showing up on my screen yet. Oh, there it is. Sorry, there's a delay between my side computer here and over here. So here what you can see is a whole list. Over on the left you have a table of contents. So if you're interested in, say, health psychology or mental health or personality or political psychology, you can go to those categories and you can participate in some of these, in one of these. Now it might be that you'll find a study in there, you go in there and you're not qualified to do that. They might only be looking for men. You're a woman, only looking for women. You're looking for men. They might look politically, they might just be looking for Democrats or something like that, and you're not that, or vice versa, Republican and Democrat. And so you have to find one that you can participate in and participate as instructed. You are honestly going in to be a valid participant in this study. So you're not going there to fool around or mess with their results or something like that. What you're doing is you're going is you have to read all the instructions, follow through, and then report back to us in the discussion about what your experience was like. Hooray, hooray. So that's what this week is about. So we're looking at sampling, where you're going to become part of a sample, and we're also looking at those 2 questions in the quiz, comparing and contrasting what are the similarities and differences between probability sampling and convenience sampling, and what kind of errors do we introduce when we're using convenience sampling. That's it for this week. Have a great week. Take much care, and I'll see you online.